Hey, it's Mr. Allred, and I've got some factor by grouping practice problems here. The first one is 12xy minus 28x minus 15y plus 35. So keep in mind that in factor by grouping, we're looking to kind of pair some things together and pull common factors out of them. So it's not too easy to break these four things into two factors without going through some intermediate form. So just looking at these, I'm going to break them into two groups as they just sit here. So I'm going to look at the 12xy minus 28x, and I'm going to say, does that have any common factors I can pull out? And I believe I can pull a 4 out of both and an x. And if that's the case, I'll be left with 3y minus 7. Okay. And then I'm going to come to the second one, which is minus 15y plus 35. I'm going to ask myself if I can pull anything out of there. Now, part of the key to getting this to work is that whenever we pull something out, we want to be left with a 3y minus 7. So don't force that, but you do want to work toward it. You don't want to make a problem go in a direction that it shouldn't. But it does mean that you want the y part to be positive. So that means we have to pay attention to the sign. So let's pull a negative out of the second one. And we can also pull out a common factor of 5. So if I pull negative 5 out of here, I'll be left with positive 3 minus 7. So as we said there, we see that we have this common factor in the two of these. We have 4x times the quantity of 3y minus 7. And then we subtract 5 times the quantity of 3y minus 7. So since both these terms have a 3y minus 7 in them, we can pull that out front. So that's a common term out of the two big pieces here that we can pull out. Okay. So if we pull that out front, what's left is out of the first term 4x and out of the second term minus 5. So hopefully you see how we collected that. So basically we factored this similar to what a quadratic looks like, but it definitely wasn't a quadratic in the beginning. It wasn't an ax squared plus bx plus c, but we were able to group it, and now we have a 2 by 2. And once again, you can always fold this back together and see if you get the original. Alright, our second factor by grouping practice problem here is 75a squared c minus 45a squared d minus 30bc plus 18bd. So, as I stated in the directional video, you can move these things around and regroup them if you like, but I think this is going to work just fine the way it is. So I'm going to take the two groups that I've got and see what happens. Sorry, that line got weird. But the first one, 75a squared c minus 45a squared d. It's not so obvious, but I believe 75 and 45 are both divisible by 15, and both of these have an a squared in them. So we're going to try and pull that out. 75 divided by 15 is 5. The a's all come out, so there's left a c. And then 15 into 45 will be a minus 3 with the d left. So that gives us 15a squared times the quantity of 5c minus 3d. So let's take what we gathered from the previous one and see that we want a positive 5c. So over here in the second one, which is negative 30bc plus 18bd, we probably want to pull out not just a common factor of what looks like 6 between 18 and 30, but a negative 6. Okay? And they both have a b in them. So let's see. We'll pull out negative 6b, which will leave us with a 5c. And then pulling the negative out will leave a negative 3d from the second one. So once again, we have two big terms that have a common factor now, and that common factor is 5c minus 3d. So I'm going to take that factor and pull it out. 5c minus 3d. And when I pull that out of the first term, I'm left with 15a squared. And when I pull it out of the second term, I'm left with negative or minus 6b. Now, if we want to factor this a little bit more, I see that in the second term I could pull a 3 out. So if I pull that 3 out front, I will have 3 times 5c minus d, and then pulling it out of the second term will leave me with 5a squared minus 2b. So be careful there. All right, and once again, you can multiply all this back together and see that you get the original up top. Thank you.